Now, there's a lot of other big story headlines around the college football landscape, so let's jump right in. For the 10th time in school history, Oklahoma is starting the season as the preseason #1 ranked team. What are the chances that they can end the season there as well?
You know, their chances are good, but Jonathan, the problem with me buying Oklahoma is that I've seen this before. Other sports writers know it, but we have seen this before because Bob Stoops has been ranked preseason #2 or #1 so many times in this past decade. And yes, he hasn't won the national championship even since 2000. But every year we've seen these lofty expectations, and they always tend to fall at least once. In 2008, it was Texas, a team that most people thought they were better than. And then in 2010, it was Texas A&M, and then Missouri, another team that many thought was inferior to Oklahoma. So my problem is, even though Landry Jones was 3rd overall last year in the country in passing yards per game, I still think that Oklahoma will trip up against A&M, and they will lose to, mark my word, they will lose to Oklahoma State for the first time since the 2002 Bedlam game when Oklahoma State won.
And Oklahoma State has a very solid chance to make some noise this season. Brandon Weeden coming back, the 26, 27-year-old guy now, but one heck of a quarterback. So we'll see if they can do some stuff as well.
I definitely think they will. Talk about controversy. During Ohio State's offseason, all of their 2010 wins were vacated. Head coach Jim Tressel resigned after admitting to having had knowledge of player misconduct. Then we saw quarterback Terrell Pryor split for the NFL, and if that isn't bad enough, the school is still awaiting a ruling from the NCAA committee on infractions. Given all of this, how will the team play once they take it to the field?
Well, Crystal, controversy is the perfect word for this situation. As you guys know, Ohio State's struggling. They have a 5-game suspension with 5 of their starters. And we all know 5 people is a lot of people on a football team. And that really, I think, is hurting their team chemistry. Although they have a new head coach, and I heard they're doing extremely well with him, I really think they're going to struggle in this first game when they take the field because the team chemistry is not going to be there because you know there's resentment from teammates. It's a sticky situation.
You mentioned their new head coach. I do like Luke Fickell. I think he's going to do a good job at Ohio State in the 1 year that he's been granted. That being said, I really don't think that Ohio State is going to struggle as much as maybe what meets the eye. The schedule is very favorable in the first 5 games. They start out with Akron, Toledo, and then another suspension-laden team, Miami, in week 3. Then you've got Colorado and then number 17, Michigan State. And the only game that's away is Colorado. So you've got 4 out of those 5 games at home. If they can come out of those unscathed, then I think they've got a very good shot to finish the season on a strong note.
I agree with you. I think Luke Fickell really understands this program despite the dark cloud that's been floating around Ohio State these past few months. I think they'll win. They'll win those opening games against those MAC teams, but they will struggle through those games. And then they'll have their biggest gut check moment of the year when they play Nebraska right in the middle of October in Nebraska's first season in the new Big Ten, well, Big 12, formerly Big Ten of the North. But what's going to happen is Ohio State is going to win that game. DeVere Posey and Danny Herring will be back from their 5-game suspensions, and they will take down a Nebraska team that really struggles to pass despite Taylor Martinez's ability to run. I think they'll win that game, and that will set the tone for the rest of their season.
And you mentioned Nebraska is kind of not so much inability to pass, but kind of I guess a lack of productivity per se. On the flip side, Ohio State now starting Joe Bauserman, kind of his time to shine with Terrell Pryor out. Last year, very impressive in 8 games, 73% completion percentage. So I'm interested to see how he does this year being the full-time starter.
Absolutely.
They're all very valid points. But over the last few years, 2 names we keep hearing in the BCS are TCU and Boise State. This will be TCU's last season as a non-automatic qualifier since they will be joining the Big East next fall. And this is Boise State's first season in the Mountain West. Do you see either of these teams busting the BCS this year?
If one does, the other won't. They both play each other, so one's ultimately going to hurt the other's chances. Now, that being said, I've got both of them losing on opening weekend. I think TCU is going to get upset by Baylor at Baylor behind the strong arm of Robert Griffin. And I think Georgia is going to beat Boise, start their season off on a high note, get Rick kind of off the hot seat for at least a little while. You've got a new quarterback at TCU, Casey Paschal, taking over for a 4-year starter in Andy Dalton. Now, that's tough to replace. You talk about team chemistry. It'll be interesting seeing how they bond around him.
Jonathan, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I know Andy Dalton is obviously in the NFL now with the Bengals, and everyone's making a big deal about losing the 4-year quarterback. However, Andy Dalton last year was actually 53rd in the nation in yards per game, and the reason that TCU has had back-to-back BCS seasons is because of their defense. They've been the best. They've had the best defense in the nation as far as points per game given up in each of the last 3 seasons. Gary Patterson is 36-3 in each of the last 3 years, and I think because they've always focused on their defense and their ability to run the football, Andy Dalton's loss is not going to hurt them. I think TCU will crash the BCS picture once again.
I will come at you with a rebuttal on that one. While Andy Dalton wasn't necessarily the most productive passer, he was a game manager. He didn't turn the ball over a lot, made good decisions. So if Casey Paschal can do that, then maybe we're talking about another TCU BCS team. If not, things might get a little dicey.
I think it's going to be extremely interesting to see these teams in their new conferences and playing tougher play. So I think we'll see where it leads them this season. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Sports Zone. Please follow us on Twitter at MSU Sports Zone and feel free to leave any questions, comments, or topics that you would like us to discuss. Thanks for watching, and please join us again on the Sports Zone.